Hello, folks. Here's Robson Bittencourt, and today I'll summarize some issues we discussed in week 4 of our course of Applied Linguistics to English Teaching by Professor Rocio Masoleni. In this class, we focused on lexicology and lexicography and the disciplines that they are related to, particularly morphology, semantics, pragmatics, and sociolinguistics. First, one important connection we can see is between lexicology and morphology. While morphology is the branch of linguistics that deals with morphemes, which is the smallest unit of meaning, lexicology, in turn, is the study of the vocabulary of a language, or lexemes, the smallest unity in the meaning system of a language that can be distinguished from other similar units. Lexicology is the study of lexicon, including its historical development, social stratification, and quantitative composition. Morphology, on the other hand, is concerned with the structure and formation of words, including the study of affixation, compounding, borrowing, and many others. Lexemes are the head words of dictionaries, for example. An example of a lexeme is the word walk, which is a lexeme that includes variations such as walks, walked, and walking. On the other hand, the plural s can be a morpheme, but it is not a lexeme. One further and important distinction we have looked at is that between synchronic and diachronic lexicology. Synchronic lexicology deals with the vocabulary and vocabulary units of a particular language at a certain time, i.e., it is historical lexicology. Diachronic lexicology deals with the changes and the development of vocabulary in the course of time. Now, in the field of lexicology and related disciplines, one particularly framework is worth exploring: the lexical approach. This approach identifies lexis as the basis of languages and focuses on the principle that language consists of grammaticalized lexis. This approach has become increasingly used in studies of second language acquisition as an alternative to traditional grammar-based teaching methods. The main idea is that we could learn chunks of language, such as collocations and phrases, and then combine them to form sentences instead of focusing on the syntactic structures. The units are words, chunks formed by collocation, and fixed phrases. From a psycholinguistic point of view, the lexical approach consists of the capacity of understanding and producing lexical phrases as non-analyzed entities, chunks, as we have said before. Now, let us explore one example. Take the phrase, rescue attempts are being hampered by bad weather. This is a chunk of language and almost a fixed phrase. It is formed by the collocation rescue, attempt, rescue plus attempt, and then rescue attempt plus hampered, and then hampered plus by, and hampered by plus bad weather. So you keep putting together chunks so you get the sentence. Now the question remains, how are we going to use the lexical approach? How can we use this approach in the classroom? A simple activity to incorporate the lexical approach is to encourage learners to identify and record lexical chunks and fixed phrases in text that they are reading. These ideas may be, and in fact, are already being applied in teaching foreign languages, including English, obviously. In my own experience as a teacher, I often work with collocations and phrases that are to be understood as chunks. However, I do not find it useful to neglect grammar just for the sake of it. In a way, in my understanding, this approach is obviously not completely new. Teaching collocations and phrases is reasonably common in some textbooks and teaching practices, as I said, including mine. I'm curious to find out how this could replace teaching grammar, if that is the underlying purpose of this approach. Now let's turn to the relation between lexicology and semantics. Since lexicology deals with words, this section also touched on issues from semantics and pragmatics, obviously. Semantics, by definition, is the area of linguistics that analyzes the meanings of words, phrases, and sentences in the language. The study of semantics includes the study of how meanings are constructed, interpreted, clarified, obscured, illustrated, simplified, negotiated, contradicted, and paraphrased. In our class, for example, we discussed phrases such as, "Can you give me an apple?" Such a phrase, as we can see, has a semantic meaning which can be somehow taken from the individual meanings of the words. So it could be interpreted as asking about the ability or not to give the speaker an apple. However, the speaker's meaning or the pragmatic meaning is that the question is a request. The speaker wants an apple. The same ambiguity happens repeatedly in languages, and speakers are mostly able to eliminate the ambiguity and infer the speaker's meaning. Another important distinction that we have explored is Saussure's theory of linguistic science. For Saussure, the idea is that linguistic science gain meaning from the relationship with other science. This leads to the concept of syntagmatic and paradigmatic relations. Paradigmatic relation is concerned with the way words are grouped together into categories, like nouns, verbs, adjectives, etc. Words in the same group or word class can be exchanged for each other in a sentence. For example, the dog or the cat or the chimpanzee beat me, or him or her, and so on. This could be useful in language teaching, for example, in exercises of matching synonyms and antonyms, grouping words according to categories. Additionally, it is also important in the arrangement of words in a thesaurus, in terms of synonyms, antonyms, etc. As for syntagmatic relations, they refer to the relationship between words in a sentence. A syntagm is a relationship between words in the same sentence. Synonymy refer to words with similar meanings. For example, A is similar to B, large, similar to huge, gigantic, and so on. Antonymy refers to words with opposite meanings. A is the opposite of B. Example, big is the opposite of small. Syntagmatic relation refers to the relationship between words in a sentence. Any alterations to the word combination can change the meaning of the sentence. For example, Paul is bathing a dog and the dog is bathing Paul. They have completely different meanings. Both sentences have the same components, but in a different order. In other words, the syntagmatic relation explains how the word's position in a sentence determines the meaning of the sentence. Let's turn now to another important name in the history of linguistics, Chomsky. Here we look at Chomsky and his theory of syntactic relations. In this class, in week 4, we also briefly looked at Chomsky's proposal that syntax can be understood completely independently from semantic content. In this context, one funny example is his classic sentence, colorless, green ideas, sleep furiously. This sentence was first presented by Chomsky as a series of words strung together randomly. It is grammatical according to the lexical classification. However, it's nonsense on the semantic level. However, close analysis shows that the sentence can actually make sense, and readers will try to make sense if it's necessary. One could interpret that green ideas are new ideas, for example, and that they eventually become colorless, not so fresh anymore. While ideas do not sleep, they could be on hold, hiding, or not being expressed in public for fear of retaliation or whatever. So these ideas are just not being expressed at this moment. Rather, they are sleeping. In fact, they are sleeping furiously, since their public expression might be prohibited or avoided. Thus, they need to be suppressed, but they are somehow boiling and ready to burst out in public. Therefore, they're sleeping furiously. So it is It is easy to see that this random idealized sentence suggested by Chomsky does not survive close scrutiny. Likewise, I believe that considering syntax independently from semantics and meaning is not productive or efficient, and absolutely not interesting for a second language acquisition and teaching English. It seems to me that an integrated approach or integrated approaches, cross-disciplinary approaches, is the way to understand language more efficient and consequently to teach them. Finally, some brief words about lexicology and sociolinguistics. Since lexicology and semantics are intimately related to sociolinguistics, since the relationship between language and society, which is the object of sociolinguistics, has a bearing, an important bearing, on vocabulary and the meaning of lexemes. Now, it's difficult to summarize such complex issues that are interrelated and that were discussed for about 2 hours in just a few words. But we could say that lexicology plays a central role in applied linguistics to English teaching, since it deals with several aspects of language, as we have seen before, such as lexicon, morphology, semantics, and pragmatics, and by the way, also sociology. Well, folks, that was all for today. Thank you very much for following me, listening to me until this point. If you have any questions, I will be more than willing to answer them. Just write to me, pfrobson@gmail.com, or write to my telephone, and I'll be glad to answer.